Hello, everyone, and welcome into the show. My name is Jonathan Messer, and this is the Boobie Sports Show. I know I don't sound as energetic as I usually am, given events going on this week, and this is only one episode this week. It's been hard to find. It's been a hard week for me. I know I mentioned that we're never going to talk politics on the show because it's completely separate. Sports and politics is separate, and I still believe that. But I never said I won't talk religion, and I think religion is baked into everything I do in my life, and I say God bless at the end of every episode. So we're going to talk about religion, and there's some things that transcend politics, such as assassinations, the tears. At least for me, the tears have been cried, the whys have been asked, and the prayers have been prayed, and the prayers will continue to be prayed. Football's supposed to be an escape from the crazies of the ongoing world, but I do feel like I would not be doing anybody justice by just sitting around and not saying anything. I'm done with the even if you don't agree with him, that type of talk. That's over. It's good versus evil. It's not left versus right. It really never has been. What side do you want to be on? I have amazing friends who I completely disagree with politically, and after every conversation, it's always I love you and I'd do anything for you. And that's what we've lost. That's just going to be my short little spiel on it. A martyr, Charlie Kirk, has died and he's in heaven with God now. God bless his soul, and we'll continue to pray for his family. As a matter of fact, let's say a prayer real quick for him. Let's all bow our heads, please. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Lord, I pray to you today to ask that you continue to look over Charlie Kirk's family. I also pray that you bless his soul and have mercy on his soul, as we know he's in your loving embrace now, Lord. Help him and his movement and Turning Point keep fighting for what they believe is right. And please help us keep having open discussions, Lord, because we know it's the only thing that's going to keep our country great. Be with Erica, his wife, and with his two small children as they navigate this tough situation. Be a rock for them and help them lean upon you, Lord. Help them keep him in their memories forever, in their hearts forever, and wrap your healing arms around them as they grieve, Lord. Help heal our country so that this will never happen again and that we can love each other again, because we know that there's nothing in this country, in this world, that we can do except put our faith in you, and until that happens, nothing will be right in our country ever again, Lord. We love you, and in your Son's name we pray. Amen. Okay, now that we got that out of the way, let's go ahead and hop into it. Try and pick the energy up a little bit because we still love college football, and it still is our escape. So, a little bit about what our show is going to be. We have an absolutely packed show today, which is because usually we do 2 episodes. Not doing that this week. We're doing 1. So I got to put some of my reactions into this episode. Excuse me. And we also got to predict games. We got to get the Boobie poll in there. I mean, it's just a lot. So what we're going to start with here is we're actually going to start with the Boobie poll week 3. Okay. Let's hop into it. So we're going to speed through this. Some of these games or some of these segments aren't actually going to get a cut off of the video, separate video, that being because of how much little time we're going to spend on a lot of this stuff. So the Boobie poll, we're going to fly through it. I mean, we're going to fly through this. Number 25, I have USF. Well, let me get into the 3 teams that fell out. Iowa State fell out not because obviously they won, but in a power rankings world, you can win and fall, and they did, because they didn't look as good as some of these other teams. And, in a neutral field favorability standpoint, who am I going to take? Okay, Arizona State fell out, obviously lost to Mississippi State, is what it is. And the absolute horror show of football, the Florida Gators fell out. Okay, let's get into it now. Like I said, number 25, speaking of the Florida Gators, I got USF, the team that beat the Gators to knock them out. Byron Brown's really good. Alex Golis really got a squad down there playing. That defense flies around and they play with intensity. 24, I got Missouri. Prebula, I can't, for whatever reason, pronunciation on his name is a little weird for me. Prebula is balling. He plays with a lot of charisma, and the team really feeds off of it. They're balling right now. They just beat Kansas in a game that was 2 possessions, but it was really close the whole game. At number 23, I got Vanderbilt. Oh my goodness, what a team, man. They got a huge game on Saturday. I think they win. I think they're going to go. I think they're going to beat South Carolina by a field goal. Number 22, I have Michigan. So if you can't tell, Michigan rose up 3 spots. I think the showing at Oklahoma was encouraging, even though it wasn't great. Bryce Underwood read the field really well. Obviously, he didn't finish with great numbers, but he did read the field really well. What was he was? Excuse me, find my notes around. Sorry, he was 9 of 24. That's a horrible number, but he really was reading the field well. Those receivers have got to help him out, but we're gonna get into that game later. At 21, I got Ole Miss. Didn't look great against Kentucky. For whatever reason, it seems like they're their kryptonite. At 20, I got Illinois. Illinois looked really good against Duke, but was fortunate with some turnovers. We're going to talk about that game a little later. 19, Auburn. They're just going to keep moving up if they keep winning. 18, I got Georgia Tech. They've been at 18 for the past 3 weeks, haven't moved. Just been solid there. 17, Utah. I got Utah moving up. What's that, 3 spots? Just going to keep winning, it seems like. Clemson at 16, they've fallen. Clemson's not balling. And they got a big game against number 18 on my power rankings, Georgia Tech. We'll see how that goes. We're going to predict that game later in the show. Number 15, I got Texas A&M. Texas A&M's in the same spot as well. We're going to predict that game against Notre Dame at Notre Dame in South Bend. Okay, 14, South Carolina. South Carolina was at 13 last week. They just dropped the spot because their performance wasn't super impressive, and some other teams play a little bit better. At 13, I have USC. USC climbs 3 spots. They've been at 16 the past 2 weeks, but they're really impressing me, and that defense is a lot better than a lot of people. Not me. I expected it to be marginally better, but it's better than a lot of other people were expecting. 12, I still have Bama. That team looked really good last week. If they play like they're capable, that team's a national championship winning team. Team you haven't heard me say yet. Number 11, I got Tennessee. They're moving up, and they're going to keep moving up. They got a huge game against Georgia. We're going to predict that game later in the show. I love what I see from Joey Aguilar. I love what I see from that receiving corps so far, but I have to see it against good competition. I'm sorry, Syracuse. The Cuse may be loose, but I just can't roll with them, man. I love Fran Brown, but they're not the level of competition that I want to see Tennessee play against. And now they got to go face Georgia. They are at home, though. Number 10, I got Florida State. This looks like one of the best teams in college football. What a turnaround for them, man. Absolutely blew out your local middle school on Saturday, but they look good. Number 9, Oklahoma. Impressive win against Michigan. That win could be, and we're looking back in 4 years, and it's like, okay, what win kick-started Oklahoma's their ascend back onto the top of college football? You might be looking at that Michigan-Oklahoma game in Norman, Oklahoma, at Gaylord Memorial Stadium. Number 8, got Miami. They've just looked really impressive. They got a game against USF, my 25th ranked team. We're going to talk about the team USF beat on Saturday, if that's even what you would like to call them. We're also going to predict Florida LSU later in the show, but Miami's looked really good. So I think I'm not going to predict that game just because we don't have time. I think Miami covers. I think they're going to put a little end to USF's run like Florida should have done last week. At number 7, I got Georgia. They haven't moved. Teams have moved around them, but they've been steadfast in that 7 spot for me. I think They messed around a little bit with Austin P. Yes, last week, but Austin P's got a talented quarterback in Chris Parsons. So number 6, LSU dropped those 2 spots just because they struggled a little bit with La Tech, but it really wasn't that. That doesn't move me much. I think those games happens. What really moved me is some teams jumping up. Okay, at number 5, I got Notre Dame. I just dropped LSU behind them because that offensive line for LSU scares me a little bit, and they need to be able to run the ball consistently. You look at this is why looking at box scores is not a good way to evaluate football, is because you see the box score and you see they're able to run the ball pretty well, but it wasn't consistent. They weren't able to run the ball every time when they needed to. So, but let me get off the topic of LSU. Yeah, at number 5, I got Notre Dame. We're gonna predict, like I said, the Texas A&M game this week, and we'll see how it goes. I think they look good. C.J. Carr is freshman. They didn't play last week, but we'll see how they do this week. Number 4, the team that I think has looked insanely good and is actually on Boobie's best bets this week is Oregon. Dante Moore is balling out there. I think they're a really good football team. They just, I don't even know what you want to call it, what they did to Oklahoma State. My goodness. That could have been a crime. Like, they might be. I haven't looked at the state laws in Oregon, but they might be able to charge Oregon University football team, maybe just say Dan Lanning with the crime for what they did to Mike Gundy's absolutely putrid Oklahoma State team. What a nail in the coffin for that program, pretty much. Okay, number 3, I got Texas. The Longhorns, the Fighting Arch Mannings, just haven't moved me. Number 2, Penn State, and number 1, Ohio State. Both teams just haven't moved because there's no reason to move them. So I'm not really going to talk about them much. Penn State, I can't wait till I'm able to talk about them a little more. Let's get a big game soon. Okay, that's the Boobie Poll Top 25 right there. Take a sip of water because my mouth's getting dry. Intermission's not going to be too long because we have to move steadily along. Mark my little check. All right. Now for the second somber topic of the show. The University of Florida Gators. I'm a Gators fan. It's been said on this show multiple times. I try to not be biased, and I think I do a really good job at that. What I saw on Saturday was the most disgusting thing I think I've ever seen in my life. I've been beating the drum for Billy Napier. I have backed this dude my whole... something's got to change. You can't tell me that it's just this insanely talented roster just comes out there and loses the USF. There has to be accountability on the coaching staff, and as far as I can see, that's the problem. DJ Lagway did not look good. Offensive line, they didn't look good, but there has to be a preparation. Coach Napier has to prepare them to go up against these teams. They should have done away with USF. USF should not have covered that spread because what Florida can be as a football team is one of the best teams in the nation. They can still be that. I just don't think it's going to happen now. You can't show me that and then expect me to come out there and back you anymore. I dropped them all the way out of my Boobie poll. My Boobie poll. Hold my... pause. Never mind. Let me just not say that. I was thinking about hold my honeycomb, but I'm not even gonna say. But yeah, okay, let's get back on track here. Florida looked horrible, and Billy Napier won't have a job next year. I don't do hot seat talk on this show necessarily because I don't know how much I don't think it's really needed, but I'm just making the claim right now that Billy Napier will not have a job. Unless they go to the SEC championship. That's where it is. That's where we're at now. Absolute disappointment. Okay, so now that we got done talking about the absolute dumpster fire that Florida is, let's go ahead and recap some of the games that happened last week. These are going to be fast. I'm not even going to make cuts for these shows or for these segments because it's got to be fast. We got to roll through this. I'm only going to recap 2 of these games. I'm going to recap Oklahoma and Michigan, and I'm going to also recap Illinois Duke. The other 2 were Iowa State, Iowa, and Baylor SMU. Like I said before, Baylor goes into SMU, gets down by 2 touchdowns, fights their way back. Sawyer Robertson is a baller, dude. That dude can play football. They go in, get down 2 scores, forced overtime, 2 overtimes they go in and get it done. They called me a madman. Okay, going to Iowa State. Oh my goodness, what a for modern football viewers, you'd say a disgusting football game. Not a disgusting game in my eyes. The score ended 16-13, and I understand it looks close, but Iowa State dominated that football game. There was never a point in that game where I was watching and I said, Iowa really might win this game. No offense. Gronowski's getting his jersey burnt. That sucks. But let's get into the 2 that we're actually recapping. We're going to recap Michigan at Oklahoma. That score ended 13-24. Like I talked about before, John Mateer is insane. He is as advertised. 21 of 34, 270 yards passing. He had a touchdown, also did have an interception, but he had 19 carries for 79 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. I mean, he balled out. Absolutely balled out. And that's what we thought we were going to get from him. When he transferred in from Washington State, we knew he was going to be a dual threat guy, and we knew he was going to be able to run around and make plays, and he did that. What a beautiful showing from John Mateer. They just controlled the game the whole time. It wasn't like Oklahoma blew them out necessarily, but they controlled the game the whole time. There's never a point in that game where it was like, okay, Michigan's going to win. Similar to the Iowa State game. Deion Burks, I've been banging the drum about Deion Burks since last year, and he had a great game. I mean, 7 receptions, 101 yards, and a touchdown. What more can you ask out of a receiver? You know, what a great game. The O-line played well, but there's still some things to work on. That's a tough Michigan team to go up against, especially from the offensive line perspective, and I think they did a pretty good job. The defense is elite. There's nothing else to be said. The defense is elite. The run, Michigan had some success running the football. Justice Haynes had 19 carries for 125 yards and a touchdown. But what did I say? Expect Brent Venables to get after Michigan and Bryce Underwood outside of the 20s, being in the red zone, because that's what they did to Tua in the national championship game. They haven't let them have whatever they wanted to outside or in between the 20s, but once you got down there was no scoring, and Michigan was able to run the ball while they weren't in the red zone, but Oklahoma absolutely clamped the red zone. Michigan did a pretty good job stopping Oklahoma running the football. Oklahoma's going to have to find that if they want to win anything in the SEC. Let's go ahead and move over and talk about Michigan, the losing team, a little bit. People are ready to jump the bandwagon on Bryce Underwood, but I'm not willing to jump the bandwagon on him. I know that completion percentage doesn't look good, but like I said before, he's going to have some help. Those receivers are not helping. I mean, Donovan McCulley had 3 receptions and 91 yards. Those are 2 big plays, I get, but that's not going to get it done against better competition. He threw for 142 yards. He didn't have a touchdown or an interception, But his receivers have got to get open for him, man. I already mentioned that Justice Haynes had 19 carries, 125 yards, and a touchdown. He balled out. The transfer paid off for both the team and himself. I'm happy with what I saw from that. Receivers got to help. And the pass rush has got to get better and contain. I understand they can get after the quarterback, which is good, but John Mateer broke out way too much. Michigan's going to be fine. I'm circling next year for them. I'm not giving up on this year, but it was always going to be next year. Oklahoma can compete in the SEC for a SEC championship 100% without a doubt. Okay, let's move on to our other game. Illinois at Duke. I don't want to take as much time on this game as I did Michigan-Oklahoma. Illinois absolutely dominated the turnover battle. The score was 45-19, but the game was a little closer than that. Duke had 5 turnovers. Unbelievable. Illinois was able to force 5 turnovers, 4 of which were fumbles. Hank Beatty took over this game. Luke Altmaier took over this game. Altmaier went 22 of 31, 296 yards and 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. 128 of those yards were to Hank Beatty. He also had 8 receptions. I mean, that's a dude who balled out the week before, and I told you going into that game that he was going to be an X factor, and he was. Really like what I saw from them. Duke was able to pass the ball. I'd like to see a little more out of that second. That's a very experienced and old secondary. I need to see more. The cohesiveness wasn't really there, but that's something that can get fixed with an experienced secondary. Okay, let's talk a little Duke. Darian Mensah played really well, I think. 23 of 34, 334 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. Mensah played well. He's just got to have – the running game isn't there for them, and that offensive line, like I said, is not great. Mensah has enough arm talent to throw for 334 yards, but they're going to have to find something up front and in the running game. Illinois got to clean up the secondary. I already said that, but Duke's pass rush was really good. Vincent Anthony Jr., I told you guys going into that game that Vincent Anthony Jr. was one of my key players and is probably the best player on Duke's roster, and he showed it. He had 3 sacks. Offensively, other than Darian Mensah, their best player was probably Cooper Barkay. I mentioned him, too, before the game. He was one of my key players. 4 receptions, 88 yards. Illinois gets it done on the road at Duke, 45-19. Okay, we're going to move along. Take a sip of water. You know, I don't like having a dry mouth. Pause. Okay. Let's see. What's next on the ballot? Oh, let's pick the biggest game of the day. How about we do that? Why not? I already got our recaps out the way. Let's go ahead and pick the biggest game of the day on Saturday. Georgia goes into Tennessee. Neyland Stadium. Good old Rocky Top? Question mark? Good old Rocky Top? Well, it's going to be a nice Rocky Top if they get this game done. Let's get into a little bit of the breakdown. This prediction is going to be pretty quick because we just don't got the time to go long with it. So let's just hop right into it. My question for Georgia is their offensive line. It's looked better, but are they going to be killers? Tennessee's coming at you. They got a lot of athleticism across the D-line. Very athletic, but there are plays to be made against Tennessee on defense. Can they take advantage using their offensive line? Can they run the ball? Last year, that was a big issue for them, and obviously they've been able to run the ball, but they played Marshall and Austin Peay. So can they run the ball against better competition? That's going to play into a lot of that offensive line. They have an amazing receiver core. Let's have Gunnar Stockton get them the football and let them make plays. Expect a lot of lateral stuff with Zachariah Branch. End around, sweeps. I mentioned the run game. Screen passes are an extension of the run game. Expect a lot of it. Can Gunnar Stockton just manage the game? I think, yes, he can. That's what he is. He's a game manager. He's not going to make mistakes, and he's probably not going to make the biggest plays, especially with his arm. He can move his legs, though. He can run. Pretty good runner. Tennessee. No turnovers from Joey Aguilar, please. Now, I understand turnovers happen in football, so if it's one, okay, can we not have any back-breaking turnovers like we saw at App State? We'll see. Georgia's a really good defense with a really good coaching staff. Kirby Smart knows how to get it done. They're going to Tennessee. Joey Aguilar has got to take care of the ball. Can't throw interceptions because Gunnar Stockton won't. Gunnar Stockton's going to manage the game, and he's not going to make mistakes. He'll take the dump down. Will Joey Aguilar do the same? Will Deshaun Bishop and Star Thomas take the relief away? Will they or on? Will they help relieve Joey Aguilar, not make him run around and not put him in 3rd and 7 situations every time? Because those aren't always going to convert. Usually they're not going to convert. They've been running the ball really well against these lower competition teams. So again, sorry Syracuse, but these lower competition teams, I really would like to see them run the ball well against Georgia, and it'll prove what I think I already know. Again, sorry for the long pause. Like I said, I'm filming this at night, so throwing in a few yawns here. Chris Brazzell and Braylon Staley have to ball out at receiver. They got to help Joey Aguilar out against a really good Georgia pass rush. Can they do it against good competition? They have a pretty good O-line. That's a staple in Tennessee. They're always going to have a pretty good offensive line. Defensively, you can't get leaned on. Jerron McCoy, best corner in the SEC. Arion Carter, best linebacker in the world. Those dudes have got to lead. They're going to lead, but they can't do everything. Can they not get leaned on? You can't let Georgia just march down the field. You can't let them dominate the time of possession is pretty much what I'm saying. You can't just let them dink and dunk and run the ball their way down the field, or they're going to it's a slow game. It's a war of attrition. They're just going to choke you out and beat you. What's going to happen? You're going to have to take a stand there. Okay, let's get into the weeds a little bit. Georgia is favored by 4.5. The money line is minus 182 for Georgia, plus 150 for Tennessee. Not that big of a money line right there. The over-under is 49.5. I had to put this show together quick, so we're not going to do any key players and all that, but just know that some of these guys can dominate. Who do I have winning this game? Everything is telling me to take Tennessee, but I can't. I think Georgia wins in a razor-thin game, razor-close game. I think they just make a few less mistakes, and I picked Georgia because I just trust them more. You know what I'm saying? When everything's telling me to pick Tennessee, but not by much. So when it's 51-49, I'm going to go with the staff and the coach who has done it before, who I just trust a little more. And that's Georgia. So I'm going to take Georgia to win this game. Probably is going to cover just because the line's at 4.5. But they might not. I mean, a field goal. We'll see. But I got Georgia winning a very close game. Okay. Get a sip of water. And move on to the next game. Huge game right here. Bigger than I think a lot of the country is willing to admit. The Clemson, possibly Paper Tigers, go into the land of the Yellow Jackets. Georgia Tech, Atlanta, Georgia. Huge game. Who's going to win? Well, let's try and break it down a little bit. Clemson hasn't looked good. It's the long and short of them. I've dropped them from 4 all the way down to 16 in the Boobie poll from the week 1. They've dropped 12 spots because they haven't looked good. They almost lost to Troy last week. They probably should have lost to Troy last week. Peter Woods and T.J. Parker have got to ball out. The D-line has been mid at best. And this is a very, very strong suit that we thought was going to be for Clemson coming into this game, or this year. Offensively, the run game is just non-existent. I know that they had a good game last week against Troy running the football, but they cannot do anything running the ball against LSU. Cade Klubnik can't just be that, but he's going to have to ball out. You're without Antonio Williams, but Bryant Wesco and TJ Moore are both playing. Get them the football down the field. There are plays to be made against this Georgia Tech secondary. I think Georgia Tech's a really physical team with a really good defense, but there are plays to be made against that secondary. Will Cade Klubnik take them? Only time will tell. Georgia Tech, they run the ball really well. They pound you. Pause. But when talking about Georgia Tech football, there's going to be a lot of pauses because they just pound you till you just break thin. Pause. Jamal Haynes, Malachi Hosley is one of the best running back duos in the country, especially with Jamal Haynes. Jamal Haynes is the lead back. Really, really good group right there. And then you add Haynes King, who runs like he is a Mack truck. Dude runs behind his pads, especially for a quarterback. It's insane. You'd love to see it. They're going to run it at Clemson all game. Can they stop it? The defensive line for Georgia Tech has to reset the offensive line of Ole Miss. They're going to have to reset the line of scrimmage. If they can live at the line of scrimmage or in their backfield and get some type of pass rush, they're going to win this game. I say also here, they should be able to drop 7 into coverage because Clemson hasn't showed any pulse of a running game against good competition in the past 2 years. And against LSU is non-existent. So if I'm Georgia Tech, I'm trusting my guys that my guys can get home with 4, and then if they do end up running the ball, we can just fill with our backers, and we can anticipate ourselves sitting back in coverage. We can run a very soft zone and keep everything underneath of us. Let's get into the weeds a little bit. Clemson's favored 3.5. This game has dropped a lot. I think the line opened 6.5. And it's dropped already. It's dropped to 3.5 for Clemson. The money line is Clemson minus 146 and Georgia Tech plus 122. And the over-under is 51.5. Georgia Tech's going to win this football game. I think they're going to out-physical Clemson. I think they're going to out-lunch pail Clemson. I think they're going to out-blue-collar Clemson. And I just think they're going to get it done by running the football. The trio of Jamal Haynes, Malachi Hosley, and Haynes King is just going to be too much. Too physical, too willing to fight for the extra yard. That's the type of mindset they play with at Georgia Tech, and it's going to really show in this football game. Okay. We got 2 more games to pick, and then we got Boobie's best bets, and then I'm going to get y'all out of here. Go ahead and hop right into this. We're going to talk A&M Notre Dame. Okay. The Texas A&M Aggies roll into South Bend to face the Notre Dame Fighting Eesh. Shout out Christopher. Okay, let's get into this game a little bit. Texas A&M. Marcel Reed needs to show us something. He's got something to prove. He's been good against these high school teams they've been playing, but where's the it factor, and does he have it? I don't know. That's why I'd like to see it against Notre Dame. They have one of the best running back duos in college football. Le'Veon Moss and Ruben Owens is 100% a top 5 backfield. They need to take the pressure off Marcel Reed against a really good defense in a really loud stadium in a really big game in primetime. Mario Carver and Casey Conception. Conception came over from NC State. He was really good there, and he's been good for Texas A&M. They're going to have to play well. There are plays to be made and plays to be had against this Notre Dame secondary. Can they get it done? Their offensive line is elite, but the defense has to be better. They've been giving up explosive plays like Oprah giving out cars. Let's go ahead and let's be better. For Notre Dame, C.J. Carrs looked good. I've been very encouraged with what I've seen from him as just a true freshman. He played really good against Miami. They were off last week, but I'm happy with what I saw from Miami. Well, from him in the Miami game. Excuse the yawn. I'm so sorry. Please run the football. You have Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Prince. Jeremiah Love should be winning the Heisman. Jeremiah Love is the best Jeremiah in college football, and I promise you that's saying a lot because Jeremiah Smith exists and breathes the same football air that he does. Please give him the football. Eli Reardon at tight end has hands like a snake. At sometimes he's going to have to catch the balls that are given to him. He had 91 some odd yards last game, and it should have been more because he had hands like a snake. If he catches the football, they're in for a good week, a good Saturday. Malachi Fields, Jordan Faison, and Jaden Greathouse have got to step up at receiver. Against Miami, it didn't look great at receiver. They weren't creating much separation. Eli Reardon had to carry the load as far as receiving yards go. I need somebody to step up in that receiving core. The secondary needs to be more cohesive. I talked about this in the Boobie poll with Illinois. I'm sorry for the long pauses, guys. It's late. But with Illinois need to be more cohesive, and Notre Dame needs to do the same thing. They weren't super cohesive against Miami. There were some blown coverages. They need to be better. It's got to be better. That's a very talented group with some very good football players. Get it fixed. They need to fly around the field because Marcel Reed can fly. Be athletes, man. This team can do that. Boubacar Traore at edge had a sack last week against Notre Dame and almost had about 8 others. That dude's a stud. I mentioned him in the pregame show. He's a stud. Watch out for him this week getting after Marcel Reed. Okay, let's get into the weeds. Notre Dame is favored 6.5. Notre Dame's money line is minus 245 and A&M's is plus 198. The over-under is 50.5. Who do I think is going to win? I think it's going to be Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame's going to win this game handily but close. I think it's going to be a competitive football game. I do. I think it's going to be close, and I think it's going to be competitive. But think a little bit of Miami, Notre Dame, or Oklahoma and Michigan, not to that same extent. I think that's what this game's going to look at. It's a tough game to go win if you're A&M, but they can get it done. Marcel Reed, a local guy here, I hope that he can ball out. Okay. We do only have one more game to preview and predict. Good. Oh my goodness. And I absolutely hate the team that's going on the road here. That's not good. Paper fill. All right, let's pick that back up and finish this last prediction. The absolute horrible Florida Gators go into Death Valley at night to walk into their own death against the LSU Tigers. Florida looked horrible last week. DJ Lagway didn't look good. The O-line didn't look good. The defense did look really good. Billy Napier didn't look good. Jaden Ball looks like possibly a top 10 running back in college football. For whatever reason, they went away of him. I don't know why. Caleb Banks is going to play this week. It's going to be his first game. He hasn't played. That's a true first-round talent at D-tackle. And if he comes back, he can wreak havoc. Florida's path to winning this football game is going to be dominating the line of scrimmage and not letting LSU run the ball. If they can make Garrett Nussmeier have to convert on 3rd and 8 and 3rd and 9 like he had to last year, he will throw interceptions. It's his nature, and it's really any quarterback's nature because you can't convert on 3rd and long without trying to force something every once in a while. Can Billy Napier coach a game? I don't subscribe to the whole Billy Napier's just the worst play caller in the world because he's not. That's an easy cop-out for fans, and not all fans. Please don't get me wrong by saying this. a lot of fans blame play calling when they don't know what else to blame, and they look at a play and they see that it didn't go great, but they don't know what leads up to calling a play, and they don't understand that whoever was in the box, they brought a joker, and he's coming off the edge. They got no one in the flat except for that backer. That our running back is faster, and he can get out to the flat on that linebacker. Well, sometimes it doesn't always work out how you think it's going to, being the OC to start out before the play. So please think about it before you just blame play calling. But Florida just looked putrid last week. USF dominated them in pretty much any statistical. Let me back it up and rephrase that. Any advanced stats, any stats that you would consider analytics. Shout out Coach Jeff. He helps give websites for the analytics for this show all the time. Shout out Coach Jeff. I was looking at the site he sent me, and oh my goodness, USF just analytically blew Florida out of the water. It was so bad. But let's go ahead and start talking about a little bit about LSU. Garrett Nussmeier's looked really good. Hasn't turned the ball over. Part of that is the fact that he's not having to convert 3rd and 11. But I'm really encouraged what I've seen from him. Caden Durham has got to show up. He didn't really show up against La Tech last week, but he did against Clemson Possible Paper Tigers. So let's see it. Let's see it from him. Harlan Bailey is the guy behind him. He can be an X factor in this game. If Caden Durham's not able to carry the ball well and LSU's struggling running the football and Harlan Bailey can come in there and run the football, that can be a big development in this football game. Aaron Anderson and Barryon Brown are a great receiver duo. They're going to be hard to guard for Florida. Good thing for Florida is they have 3 pretty much bump and run corners, and those are the type of corners that you really need against teams like Kentucky who are really fast and really gadgety at receiver. This defense, let me not jump the gun here. Let's talk a little bit about the O-line. Florida can eat this offensive line if they play to their potential, because the O-line's not great for LSU. Caleb Banks is back. We'll see. Defense is really good for LSU. I mean, it looks elite. There's not much else to say. Need the pass rush really badly to show up. If you can make DJ Lagway uncomfortable, last week proved that he was human. If you make him uncomfortable, Florida will lose this game. You have got to rush DJ Lagway. This goes into the pass rush because you can't let him sit there and throw the ball down the field. If DJ Lagway is able to sit back in the pocket and throw the ball down the field, Florida's going to win this football game. Because you can't stop that. The way you stop it is pass rushing and making DJ take intermediate to short routes, because he's not very good at doing that. Okay. Let's go ahead and get into the weeds here. LSU is favored by 7.5. Their money line is minus 260 and Florida's is plus 220 or 210. The over/under is 47.5. Who wins? Obviously, LSU wins this football game. LSU's going to win this football game. I have little to no doubt. I don't believe in Florida. I don't trust Florida at all. Potential-wise, Florida can absolutely win this football game, but why should I expect them to bring it? At all. At all. I do think Florida backdoor covers here. Kind of one of those things where LSU's up by 17 points and Florida scores a touchdown and the game's just obviously over, but there's 7 minutes left, and then, LSU goes down, kicks a field goal, and then Florida gets the ball, goes down and scores, and then LSU only wins by 6 points. That type of thing. I don't think this is going to be... It might be a little contested, but I don't think it's going to be super close. I think LSU wins this game pretty handedly. Okay, that's the last of the predictions. Swig of water, we'll get into Boobie's best bets, and then we'll bounce out of here. I think I've been moving pretty well with this, with how much we had to cover. I hate having to do this. It's just been a tough week. Okay. Let's get into Boobie's best bets. Just real quickly. Let's hopefully win you guys some money here. You know what I'm saying? Everyone likes money. Okay, end point here. Boobie's best bets. Are we going to win you some money this week? Hell yeah, we are. Let's go over a little bit of last week. UCLA and UNLV. Here, I'll just go through. Let me just go through all of them, actually. Let me go through all what I had for last week and whether it hit or not. Okay. Ole Miss minus 8.5 at Kentucky did not hit. I was sick to my stomach watching that end of that football game because Ole Miss was winning by 10 points. And they gave up a 30-yard pass at the end of the game. Kentucky knows they can't win unless they get an onside kick. They decide to go ahead and make the smart football move, like a smart football coach that Stoops is, and kick the field goal to try and get the onside kick. How dare they? Disgusting. The most disgusting backdoor cover I've ever seen in my life. Oh, Michigan at Oklahoma, over 44.5 didn't hit. I guess I was just misled. Georgia Southern at USC. USC was favored 28.5. USC won by way more than 28.5. I knew that was the one I was most confident in. UCLA at UNLV. I said take the over at 55.5. Total was 53 points, so we missed that by 3 points. It kind of sucks. It was that close. We were so close to going 3-1, but we didn't. So we lick our wounds and we get back at it. Let's get into Boobie's best bets for this week. I think we got some hitters here. Only 4 again this week. First week there were 7. I'm not going to put an excessive amount that I don't think are going to hit because I want to win y'all money here. I'm not going to just put the same amount out every week if I'm not confident in them. The bare minimum will be 4 at least every week though. The one I'm most confident in here is Oregon minus 27.5 against Northwestern. Oregon has just been pimp slapping every team that steps on the field with them. And I don't understand why anyone would think it would stop with Northwestern. I understand they're at Northwestern, but let's be for real. 27.5 points. Northwestern has been horrible. So, yeah, I'm rolling with Oregon. Give me those points. Another Oregon team, not the Oregon Ducks, but Oregon State, plus 22.5 at Texas Tech. I know Oregon State hasn't looked amazing, but I think Malik Murphy is a good quarterback, and I think this is a very look-ahead game for Texas Tech. Texas Tech has to go to Utah next week. It's a top 20 matchup as of right now. So, top 25 matchup as of now. I'm rolling with Oregon State. I don't think Oregon State's going to win this game outright, but I think they covered the 22.5 point spread simply because I think it's one of those games where Texas Tech is like, let's get out of here, let's survive, and let's go play Utah because Utah's going to matter more. That's what I think this type of game is. Maybe a backdoor cover. Clemson at Georgia Tech. I got the under at 51.5. This game's going to be low score, ground and pound, physical football game. That's just the brand of football Georgia Tech plays. And even if Georgia Tech gets behind, they're say Clemson goes and scores first, they're still going to run the ball and take time off the clock. I'm pretty confident in under 51.5 there. And then Tulane is favored 1.5 against Duke. This game, if I'm not mistaken, opened as Duke favored on the road at Tulane. Well, now it flipped to minus 1.5. We're getting it after it flipped, but I still think Tulane covers a 1-point spread. Jake Retzlaff, the transfer from BYU who got in trouble for soaking. Not really. But we know why he got kicked out. Broke honor code. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, whatever. Duke's going to have a hangover here, I think. A tough emotional loss against Illinois because they were in that game and the turnovers killed them. I think that beats them twice. And I think Tulane wins this football game. So just a summary, I got Oregon minus 27.5 at Northwestern, Oregon State plus 22.5 at Texas Tech, Clemson at Georgia Tech going over 51.5 points, and Tulane minus 1.5 against Duke. Okay, guys, that's the show. I don't know why the audio sounded weird right there. Okay, sorry. All right, guys, that is the show. I really appreciate you guys tuning in. Please pray. Pray for the Kirk family. Pray for our country. Pray for a deeper knowing and relationship with God, because that is the truest thing that matters in this world, and obviously beyond, because football passes, people pass, days, weeks, and months pass. Guess what? Jesus passed, but on the third day he rose. And now you should live under Jesus' rules, under his mighty hammer. Jesus is the way. Jesus is the light. Jesus will make everything better in your life. And I'm not talking about easier. There's a difference in better and easier. I think as Christians, when we try to bring people into the faith, we make the mistake of kind of portraying our lives as easier and as, less difficult now that Jesus is in our life, but it's actually quite the opposite. It's harder. Not necessarily physically and not necessarily because we have more tragedy, but it's harder to live as a good person. It is harder to live like Jesus than it was to be able to just run around and sin. He never said it'd be easy, he just said it'd be worth it. Let's try to hammer that home. I was talking to a man on campus, and he brought up a really good analogy, and I'm going to share that here. It's consider yourself pre-acceptance of Jesus as a pig. You're a pig, and what are pigs fed? Pigs are fed pig slop, just gross pig slop. Well, once you come to Christ, you're born again, and you're made into a man. Well, you're a man, and you eat a nice fine steak dinner, and put together the dish is pig slop and a beautiful nice medium rare steak, filet mignon, peppercorn with asparagus and caviar. Well, of course you're going to take the steak now, but every once in a while when they're not pinned against each other, you're sitting there, you're thinking, when I was a pig, I really liked that pig slop. I'm just try it because I really liked it. You try it and you hate it and it's disgusting and you immediately run back to the steak. Well, that's what sin's like. Sometimes we dabble back into sin even after we've been born again. It's not about how much you sin, it's about how hard you try not to. Turn your life to Jesus, commit to him, follow him, and join us in everlasting love, compassion, and you will have eternal life. Thank you everyone for watching the show. I love you all. Hug someone. Tell someone you love them. People that you've, lost contact with or having, a disagreement with, text them or call them right now and tell them you love them, because you never know when it's going to be the last time. I love you all. Thanks for watching the show. Let's have a great Saturday of college football. God bless.